Paper 1 walkthrough, winter 20, paper 1-2. So the first question, fairly straightforward. What is meant by HTML, hypertext markup language, and whether the background is structure or presentation. Hopefully by now we know that it's presentation. This is color, the color code. And reasonably straightforward, hexadecimal into binary. Hopefully you're good with the reasonably fast method of breaking up into two nibbles. So we have two nibbles. So we have 43 would be represented as 4. So we put a 1 in the 4. Over here we've got 3. So we've got 1 over here and here. B, which is 11, would be 8, 10, 1. For 11, 7 is going to be 4, 2, 6, and 1. F, and of course 0 is going to be all zeros. And that's a very quick and easy way to get 6 marks. Is a microphone input or output device? Data is going into the computer, so it's an input device. Almost identical to a question that was asked in 2021. It's on lossy and lossless compression. So we have a type of compression, and what type of compression should she use for recording to make sure the smile is as small as possible? And that's going to be lossy compression. And why the question here is describe it. And it is a compression algorithm. And that was the same answer given before. It removes redundant, unnecessary data. This is lossy compression. Unnecessary data. Sounds that cannot be heard by the human ear. So very high pitches, very low pitches. It will reduce the sample rate. The sample rate is the number of samples per second. The sample resolution, the number of pixels to store each sample. And we could say that data is permanently removed, as opposed to lossless compression, where we can rebuild it. Give 2 benefits of compressing the file for the website. So what are the benefits of compressing a file? So the benefits is quicker for her to upload because it's a smaller file size. It's quicker for users to download because it's a smaller file size. It won't slow the website down as much when loading because it's a smaller file size. And it takes up less storage on the website's hard drive storage space because it's a smaller file size. This first part is it's quite a bit of detail that they slipped into a TLS question. I haven't seen this level of detail before, asking you to name the 2 layers that are present in the TLS. Remember, we have secure socket layer, SSL, and its successor protocol, TLS, and these are the protocols used to encrypt data transfer between different websites. So look here, this is not secure, and this Google search is secure. It's using this padlock here. It says the connection is secure, and that's using SSL and TLS, probably TLS because SSL is the older security protocol. It means it's encrypting and decrypting it. The layers start to get complex, and this is more of a complex networking topic, but really we're talking here about the handshake layer. This is communicating between the 2 devices, and the record layer, which holds the data. Handshake layer and record layer. And you see here, that's all they want you to know, that there's a handshake layer and a record layer. So the next question is explain. That's worth 6 marks. That's a lot of marks. How data is sent using the TLS protocol. There was a similar question in an older paper, and let's look at the steps. Any 6 from this is worth 6 marks. So the client browser requests a secure connection. The client is, if you're connecting, that's you. The server is the site you're connecting to. So you request a connection to the server. The client browser asks the server to identify itself. The server provides its digital certificate. The client validates the certificate. And then the client sends a signal back to the server saying, okay, I validated your certificate. And then then the encryption method is agreed and it sends. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say 6, any one of these can be here. One way to think about it is you are talking to somebody, you ask them to identify themselves, they give you their driver's license, you take their driver's license and you validate it, and if it's valid, then you say to them, okay, you're good to, I don't know, you're good to go, or maybe it's a passport or something. If you get a picture of a little story like that, it can help you to remember the whole process. And this is basically the handshake. This is the way the handshake takes place. So we have a security threat question here, but it's the security of the web server. So things like farming and phishing are not security threats to a web server. That's just to the individual. So 3 security threats: hacking, obviously gaining unauthorized access, denial of service attack, or even DDoS, which is distributed denial of service attack, the server getting a virus, or some other kind of malware. Malware is a broader term for software that shouldn't be there, that are causing harm. And then we want to know for 4 points. Remember, there's seven marks here, so there's 10% of your exam in this question here. Tina installs a proxy server to help her protect her website from security. So what is a proxy server? So it's a computer system router that functions as a relay between the client and the server it's connecting to. Here's a nice image here. You can think of you as the client going to the proxy server. The proxy server has its own IP address and connects over here and then sends it back to you. So your IP address is hidden. Here's another diagram over here of a proxy server. It disguises your IP address. It acts somewhat like a firewall, and it goes between you and the external traffic. And what are we looking for 4 marks here? For 4 marks, acts as a firewall, proxy server, monitors or filters the packets coming in, the data coming in and going out. It's got some rules, such as which IP addresses can and can't get through, and it blocks any traffic that violates the rules. That's easy to that should be easy to remember. Acts as a firewall, monitors the traffic, uses rules to monitor traffic, such as blacklisted IP addresses, and if they don't meet the rules, it blocks any traffic. That should be an easy 4 to remember if you get a question like that, and they do come up. Straightforward question here on odd and even parity. I'll just show you the answer. You can pause it and check your understanding. So even number of ones and an odd number. A nice easy question. Perhaps not so easy and worth 5 points is, how does the checksum work? Now we've got 5 marks for this. We don't have to go into detail on how the checksum works. We just need to know that a value is calculated from the data. It's calculated using an algorithm. And then that value is appended to the data that's transmitted. The value is recalculated after transmission, and the values are compared. If a value does not match, then we know there's been an error. Now that is a checksum, and it's very similar to a check digit, but a check digit is the one that uses modulo 11 in some instances, and there are different algorithms, there are different things. A check digit is used typically with an ISBN and a barcode scanner, and a checksum is used when we're sending traffic across the network. But these answers could apply to both of them because there is a value calculated from the data. There's some form of algorithm. That value, whether it's a checksum or check digit, is appended, and it's recalculated after transmission. Those values are compared, and if they don't match, there's an error. So a nice generic answer that can be used for a number of different methods of verifying that accurate transmission has occurred. Question number 3, we're interested in accidental damage to data, not the computer, but to data. Identify 3 ways that data could accidentally be damaged. I discussed this in the last video. So, flood, fire, human error, accidentally deleting a file, hardware failure such as a disk crash, and some kind of software failure. Loss of power wasn't, or spillage of liquids, they weren't in, neither was flood in the last one, but we did talk about power surges, like if a building gets hit by lightning, it can cause a voltage surge, and that's another possible one that you could have also. But what can we do to make sure we can retrieve the data if it is accidentally damaged? Well, the obvious one is create a backup. Here's a question on using an SSD to store data. Now, they're asking you to say what is meant by an SSD and how it operates. They're not asking you for advantages over a hard drive, which they sometimes do. This is worth 4 points. And here we have SSD solid state drive. It's non-volatile, as we know. That means the data is permanent. It doesn't get lost when we turn the electricity off. It is secondary storage. We know this. It's not primary storage. It's flash memory, which means it's basically NAND or NOR technology. We discussed this in the last video. EEPROM, electronically erasable programmable read-only memory. No mechanical parts. That's why it saves energy and it's quieter. We said before that it uses transistors, small switches. So this is basically your logic gate thing. Let's have a look at it. There's the inside of the SSD. You have all of these chips, which are made up of loads of NAND gates. And very quickly review the advantages, although it didn't ask for it. It's faster but shorter lifespan. It's more expensive. It's non-mechanical. Shock resistance. HDD, hard disk drive, is slower, longer lifespan, cheaper, but it does have moving parts, so it uses more energy, which is important for portable devices. A relatively straight 6-point question here, which is almost 10% of your exam, on optical discs, and I'll let you check the answers here. Optical storage, well, they all are. The largest storage is Blu-ray, can be dual layer. Blu-ray and DVDs can have more than one layer. A red laser is CD and DVD. Blu-ray is obviously a blue laser. Has the smallest storage capacity, CD, and stores data in a spiral track, all three of them. The one that uses concentric tracks is DVD RAM, RAM. The DVD RAM can read and write at the same time and uses concentric tracks. This is a spiral track. A nice logic gate question here, which together with its truth table is 8 marks, which is just over 10% of your entire total mark. So we have A NAND B. We draw that in here, A NAND B. NOR, so we put our NOR gate in. What is it NORed with? It's NORed with B and C. So we draw our B and C, and then OR C. So then we go over here and we take this output of that and we OR it with C. So fairly straightforward. The logic gate for that is here, and I'll just let you check your answers. I won't go through this one. A simple question here on LED displays. It's worth 5 marks, 6.6% of your exam. And here we go over here. I'll let you pause this and check your answers. It's a flat panel display, creates images using RGB diodes. It's not very energy efficient and gives off a lot of heat. It's also used in mobile devices. And it is not a front-lit display. 5-point question, fill in the blanks on networking. 5 points, 6.6% of your exam. And let's have a look at this one. We have a MAC address is a media access control address. A network device has a unique MAC address that can help identify the device in a network. An IP address is an internet protocol. Protocol is a set of rules. Address. An IP address can be static or dynamic. A static IP address means that it's fixed and it doesn't change. Dynamic is one that is changed. It's assigned to you And when you connect again with your ISP, you can get another IP address. So if you disconnect with your internet service provider and reconnect, you'll be assigned a new IP address that's not the same one. So that's static and dynamic. Here's one in browsers with 4 marks. Hopefully you can get all marks if you just think of a web browser such as Chrome that you use a lot, and you know you can view web pages in it. It renders or displays HTML. Allows you to use bookmarks or favorite web pages. It has some navigation features. You can use multiple tabs. It stores cookies. We've spoken about cookies before. You have history. It has a home page. That's enough. We don't want to do too much. It does have these protocols. It uses that. But if you're familiar with your web browser, you should be able to answer those questions. Just think about the features of a web browser you've used, and you should be able to get marks on that.